त्वमेव माता च पिता त्वमेव बन्धुश्च सखा त्वमेव विद्या द्रविणं त्वमेव सर्वं मम देवदेव। श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तिसुदेशिकेन्द्रं द्वैपायनं सूत्रकृतं मुनीन्द्रं श्रीशङ्करं भाष्यकृतं यतीन्द्रं मद्देशिकञ्चापि नमामि विद्यै। ओम नमो ब्रह्मादिभ्यो ब्रह्मविद्या संप्रदायकर्तृभ्यो वंशऋषिभ्यो महद्भ्यो नमो गुरुभ्यः। सर्वोपप्लवरहित प्रज्ञानगणः प्रत्यगर्तो ब्रह्मैवाहमस्मि। ओम प्रपन्नपारिजाताय तोत्रवेत्रैकपाणये ज्ञानमुद्राय कृष्णाय गीतामृतदुहे नमः। Pranams everyone. We have taken a long break. We were doing chapter 16. Chapter 16 talks about Daiva Asura Sampat. The first three slokas, Bhagavan basically enumerated all the Daivi's qualities, Daiva qualities. He gave a list of about 26 values, and then from 4 onwards, he started talking about the Asuri Sampat. Initially, he talked about what are the qualities of Asura, and then he talked about what is their, where do they end up with. If somebody has an Asura quality, where do they end up, and how the Asuras speak, how is their hate, what is their mindset, and finally Bhagavan also in the Sloka number 19 and 20 talked about what is their gati after this life, where do they end up with. And Bhagavan said basically they will be perpetually going into the lowliest among human beings. He said Naradhaman. And he also said that they will, by actually doing that, these indiscriminate people, they do not reach me at all. The aprapyaha. He says Mudaha aprapyaha in Sloka 20. And they do not reach me at all. Aprapya mamyeva. So they do not reach me at all. They are not qualified. They will not be qualified to get moksha. And they fall into still lower condition. Tataha adamam gatim, he said. And then Sloka 21, which we actually discussed in the last class, it talks about, we'll go to Sloka 21 again, we'll read it and then we'll discuss this again. Shri Bhagavan Uvacham Trividam Narakasyedam Dvaram Nashanam Kamah Krodastata Lobha Tasmadetattrayam Tyajet. So Bhagavan, after giving all these qualities of Asura, basically Bhagavan wanted to summarize the Asura gunas. And he summarizes that into just 3 gunas, saying that these 3 gunas are Asura gunas, and having these 3 gunas, one is certain to reach hell. It is Narakadwaram. Narakasya idam dwaram, he said. And these are 3-fold gateways. So each one of them will take us to hell. And what are those? Kama, Krodha, Tata, Lobha. Kamaha, we know desire. Krodha, anger. And then Lobha, greed. He says these 3 are good enough, or these 3 would be taking us to hell. And we actually sort of did a small vichara on desire. How does desire, when it does not get fulfilled, then it turns into anger. And the desire, if it gets fulfilled, it becomes greed. So the root cause for all the 3 is still only one, which is desire. And the lobham is by itself a difficult guna to overcome. So, because as I said, humans by nature, we are greed personified. If it is one defining guna for human beings, it is greed. We do not generally like to share. So that is our problem. And therefore, if a person is able to donate, is able to share, is able to do charity, is able to give things, then that is something to be appreciated. And when we say desires, are all desires bad? No, not all desires are bad. Dharmic desires are still okay. Desires to get moksha, mumukshutvam is also a desire. Is that bad or good? It is definitely good. Bhagavan is talking about selfish desires. Whenever we have a selfish desire, this is what I want, this is what I like, that is the desire which does not include anyone in the society for its greater good, then it is called as selfish desire. But are we, when we are in grihastha ashrama, when are we in this life, when we are not spiritually mature yet, are we in a position to give up all desires? Again, the answer is no. We are not in a position to give up all the desires. Then what should we do? Are we actually going to, how can we overcome things? So what is the solution that our Shastras offer? Shastra says, make your desires non-binding desires. Non-binding desires meaning, I have this desire, but it is okay if I don't get it. I am happy if I get it, but I am also not unhappy if I don't get it. So that way our desires become binding. The advantage of that is, if the desire gets fulfilled, because I am not too attached to the desire itself, it will not convert that desire into, the desire will not get converted into greed. In the same manner, if the desire does not get fulfilled, then my desire will not get converted into anger, because I am able to accept it. So having this samatva bhava on desires is the best way to overcome all the selfish desires. Because selfish desires alone will take us to hell, and selfish desires, if it gets converted to krodha or lobha, it's even worse. Anger, we discussed, of course, one is the desire driven angers. Then there is also hatred driven anger. There is impatience driven anger. So there are other types of anger as well. Again, we discussed detailed when we discussed akrodha. So anger is again another quality or a character that we have to eliminate, and it cannot be done overnight. It does not go off in a day. So what we have to do is to slowly be aware of our anger and see immediately, if we are not able to reduce it, at least once with the anger has passed us, we should be able to recognize it and say, okay, I have got angry, I should not get angry in future. How can I eliminate it? What triggers my anger? How can I stop the triggering point? Or how can I accept the triggering point? If I start accepting the triggering point, then the anger can be easily controlled. Again, it is a slow process, and it is a process that each one of us will have to follow on our own, because only we know our triggering points better. If somebody points out to us, this is your triggering point, we should not go into the we should not go into that 4 steps of, as I said, the 4 steps. Whenever somebody finds a fault in us, the typical thing that we do is, first of all, we go with a denial. We say we will not accept that we have that fault. Then the second one, if we are not in a position to deny, if they are able to prove us that we had in fact have this fault, then we do a justification. We say this triggered because that happened, and I am not the cause for it. He triggered my anger. I will not get angry otherwise. So we will try to do a justification. Then the third step is, if that person is also able to prove that actually it is not the other person who triggered it, but you were the cause of it, then we would generalize it. Which is, so what? Everybody has it. It's not only me who is at fault. Everybody, if this is the quality that everybody has, so we will try to generalize it. And if even that fails, then the last step, fourth step we say is, in these times, in this world, in this bad world, this is a needed character. We have to be smart. Somebody says you are lying, you did not tell the truth. We say, in these days, in this world, it is not possible to live by truth. We will have to lie to get in going with things. So we in fact give a positive spin to it. So this we should not do. If somebody finds a fault in us, if somebody is pointing out some fault, we should reflect on it. We should see how much we can change. What is it that needs to be changed without shooting the messenger. So this is about anger, krodha. Then lobha, I told you, lobha is the defining guna of humans. And we teach our children also not to share. Whenever we give something to the children, we say, it is for you only. Do not share it with your friends. Do not give if somebody asks. So we do two things in there. One, we ensure that even if that jivatma or that child does not have lobham as a guna, we actually feed it. The second thing we also do is, this actually builds an element of mistrust with that person. That person does not start trusting others. If I am not in a position to share something with others, it just means I do not trust that person. It is not necessarily only with the knowledge that you share or things that you share, news that you share. It is to do with anything with sharing. If I am not willing to share, I do not trust it. There is an element of mistrust. So we are building that element of mistrust also in that jivatma. So this lobham is our Swabhaava. And not only our Swabhaava, we also try to build it into the next generation, give it to the next generation. In fact, make sure it grows well in the next generation, which is what we should try to avoid. The lobham, I don't know whether I told this story. Lobham, there is a problem with the lobham. The problem with the lobham is, greed makes us do certain things that neither we enjoy the thing, neither we are sharing that with others, nor we be able to enjoy our life. There are certain things when you share, you get better life or you get better things. Not just in the way of karma. Karma, of course, it gives you. When we give something today, we will definitely get something better, something from others tomorrow. In fact, whatever we are getting today, if we actually reflect deeper, we know for sure that we had done nothing in this life to deserve these things. The roof on our head, the food on the table, the clothing, whatever lifestyle we have today, if we reflect deeply, have I done anything in this life worthwhile to be able to deserve these things? Most of us would say, okay, it is not the case. I had done nothing in this life to deserve this. Of course, we will also compare. That is a problem for us. We compare with somebody else who had done less than us and say that this person is having a better life than me, then why not me? But that is not actually the way to look at life. Because if that is, there are people far below our lifestyle, far below the poverty line, who have done nothing to deserve that life that they have. So we have to look at it in an absolute manner and not in a relative manner. So obviously when we do something, we are going to get things. But the power of sharing is that when you share, even when you share, there could be things that could go well for you. And there is one story that I wanted to say. I mean, there was this person, a middle-aged bachelor who had a lot of money, but he was living alone. So he's a bachelor, he was living alone, he was eating out, he had money, so he could eat out. But the problem was, maybe because he was eating out often, he started getting health issues. As in, he had some acidity and all those problems. And his friends basically suggested that he could actually get to, a cook who was at that point of time, they had identified a poor old lady. She was poor, but you could actually take her help. She could come cook for you, and after all, you had the money, you can afford a personal cook. And what he said was, okay, I'm okay with that lady to come here and cook, but he insisted that that person should not eat anything here, anything from that house. So basically, he had so much money, but he was unwilling to feed an old lady. And for some other reason, that did not work out or whatever. And he did not trust that lady, whatever. So they did not go with that arrangement. And what happened was, he could never get a proper cook, and was still eating out and still had health issues. The thing is, he had so much money, and if he had felt that let the poor lady also have some good food here, by giving good food to her, he could have got good food as well. He did not have this health issues, ulcer or whatever, acidity or whatever. But because he was unwilling to share with others, he himself could not get good food. So he had money, but he didn't have good food. Isn't that an irony? You had good food, you have money, but you don't have proper food. And that is because he was unwilling to share. That is a problem with a lot of us also. That you have a lot of money, but it will not be useful for that person. For example, some people could be actually earning a lot at the cost of their health, but they would not be enjoying the money that they leave. The money that they leave would be enjoyed by their kids or their drivers, cooks, maidservants, helpers, friends, whatever, relatives and others. Because some people are greedy. Because lobham will come in the way of even enjoying one's possessions. Some people like to see the money in their bank account. They would not want to spend. So that is one kind of lobham as well. So this is about lobham. The interesting thing is, there is Bhagavan's way of doing. If a person is actually unwilling to share, then the Bhagavan will make it in such a way that he will not be giving the full benefit to the owner also. So which means it may be available to them, but they may not be able to enjoy it. So somebody has got a lot of money, but if they have health problems and they are not able to eat good food, so even if the food is made at home, they will not be able to eat it because they have the money, no doubt, but they will not be able to enjoy it because of the problems, the lobham issues that they have in their previous life. So Bhagavan will make sure that They have it, but they are not able to enjoy it. And typically these are the biggest donors. As we said, these are the people who are the biggest donors, because what happens is they don't donate it then, but unwillingly, unknowingly, after their life, this money goes to somebody else. And when it goes to somebody else, the credit, the punya will not reach them, because it has not been done willingly. So this is the sad state. So lobham is a character, or something that we will have to avoid. We'll have to ensure that we overcome it. The sukshma behind lobham, if we understand that properly, then we will be more willing to share and donate much more. To the extent that we give to others, whatever we give to others is the extent to which we will be able to give it to ourselves also. This is the sukshma. The more we give, the more we can enjoy. So lobham has to be sacrificed, and if we leave lobham, we will be able to really enjoy our life. And these are the 3 gateways to hell. So this is what Bhagavan has been telling Arjuna so far. Then Bhagavan looks at Arjuna and says, Tasmat tyajet etat trayam. He says, therefore Arjuna, renounce this. Therefore Arjuna, reject these. Leave these 3. See, generally speaking, one should never advise anyone unless they have been asked. But here, Bhagavan gives these advice to Arjuna. And the reason is, Bhagavan has Arjuna's best interest. So even without asking for these 3 things, he says, Arjuna, if you have them, make sure that you forsake them, you renounce them, you reject them, you leave them. But as I said, generally speaking, one should never advise others unless they are being asked. That's why even at the start of Bhagavad Gita also, Arjuna would be talking. The entire first chapter, halfway through, is all the description of the war front and others, and then afterwards when Arjuna starts speaking, Arjuna will keep saying a lot of stuff, and Bhagavan will not advise anything to Arjuna. The first advice will come only in the 2nd chapter, 11th sloka, and that too only after Arjuna surrenders himself and says, Bhagavan, please help me. So until that time, Bhagavan will not give any advice to Arjuna. These are things that we can actually note from, Bhagavad Gita. So we should never advise anyone unless they ask us. There is again another story. Once a Swamiji, he went to a house, and there were an elderly couple, quite elderly, and there were some middle-aged sons. So quite old couple, so they had middle-aged sons. They had daughter-in-laws and then young kids, the grandparents, grandsons, so sons were all there. The elderly couple are big devotees of the Swamiji. So the elderly person, basically, after getting all the Swamiji, giving him all the respect, honoring him and all doing it, he said, Swamiji, please give some advice to the family. So as a family as a whole, please give some advice. Then the Swamiji basically looked at the elderly couple and then said, to you I advise not to give any advice to your sons and daughters-in-law. Do not give any advice, because the general tendency of the elderly people is to give their advice because they have gone through their life and they would have captured certain things as their experience, and they would want to share it or advise people so that the younger couple or the middle, they do not have the same trouble, they do not go through the same trouble. But the Swamiji looked at them and said, do not give any advice to your sons and daughters-in-law. That is the advice that I give to you. And he also added, if they ask you, if your sons and daughters-in-law ask you, you may advise. Not you should advise, you may advise. But understand, they are capable of running the family themselves. So do not advise on how they have to bring up their children, or how they have to manage their finances or anything, or how they have to maintain the relations, nothing of that sort. So this is the advice he gave to the elderly couple. Then the Swamiji basically looked at the sons and asked them whether you would want any advice from me, because your father had asked me to give advice to everybody, and I have given the advice to him. But would you want any advice from me? The son said, yes, please Swamiji, please give me the advice. Please give us advice. Then the Swamiji looked at the sons and said, take advice of elders at all times. Never think you are capable of doing things on your own. Always take advice from elders at all times. So this is the advice he gave to the younger generation. So this is something we have to remember, that one, we as youngers or when we are elders, we should not look to intervene on anything and everything if it does not concern us. But when we are younger, we should also always be looking to the elders for advice. So this is the story I wanted to share on the advice. Now basically here Bhagavan basically says to Arjuna, leave these three: Kama, Krodha, Lobha. And if Arjuna thinks, what will happen if I don't leave this? What will happen if I don't leave them? Bhagavan is going to say in the next two slokas, what are the consequences if we follow this advice, and what are the consequences if we don't follow this advice. So Sloka 22, 23. Sloka 22 basically tells the consequence of following the advice. Basically, tasmat etat trayam tejet. Therefore, give up these three. If we follow that advice, what will happen in 23, 22, and in Sloka 23, what happens if we do not give up? So Bhagavan is going to give in the next two slokas. We'll go to Sloka number 22. Shri Bhagavan uvacha etair vimuktah kaunteya tamodvaraistribirnarah acharatyatmanah shreyah tato yati param gatim. Etair vimuktah kaunteya tamodvaraistribirnarah acharatyatmanah shreyah tato yati param gatim. Acharatyatmanah shreyah tato yati param gatim. So what is the benefit of leaving Kama, Krodha, Lobha? We'll go to the Sloka straight away. We'll say, so Kaunteya, Etair Vimuktah Kaunteya. Kaunteya, O Arjuna, Kunti Putra Arjuna, Kaunteya. Etair Vimuktaha. Vimuktaha Etair. Vimuktaha means freed. Freed. Vimuktaha. Freed from what? Freed from etaihi. Etaihi means these. So freed from these. What are these three? First line, last words. Tribihi. The last word we've got tribihi. Tribihi means these three. These three. What are these three? Tamodvaraihi. Tamodvaraihi. Tamodvaraihi means gates of hell. Dwara means gates. Tamo here means hell. Tamo normally means tamas guna. Tamo is also associated with darkness. It is also associated with sorrow. Tamo. Or we can also say tamo here also atmanashanam. You can say narakam, hell. Tamo dwaraihi. Tamo means darkness, sorrow, so hell. So we can say tamo dwaraihi is hell. So freed from these three gates of hell. Tribir naraha. Naraha means man. So a man who gets freed from these three gates of hell, a man, what happens to him? Acharatyatmanah shreyaha. Acharati means pursues. Naraha acharati. A man pursues. So freed from these three gates of hell, a man pursues. A man pursues what? Acharati means pursues. We can say a man who will involve himself. So a man who is freed from these gates of hell pursues Shreyaha Atmanah. Shreyaha Atmanah. Shreyaha Atmanah means what is good for himself. What is good for himself. So by freeing himself from these three gateways of hell, he does good himself a lot of good. So he will get involved in activities that will do him good. So by actually leaving out all these three gunas, we will be automatically doing good things only. We will be doing sattvika things which will help us in our progress. Our actions will be for our own good if we leave these three qualities. So then, okay, I get involved in good things, I do certain things good for myself, but what is the end? So what? Bhagavan further says, Tataha param gatim yati. Tataha yati param gatim. Tataha means thus. Therefore, thus, what happens? Yati. Yati means attains. The man attains param gatim. Param gatim means supreme goal. He attains the highest goal. What is the highest goal? Jivan mukti. Happiness, bliss. So he attains happiness in this life itself. Jivan mukti. And not only Jivan mukti, but he will also get videha mukti. He basically gets moksha. He attains the freedom from samsara. So if we summarize, Kaunteya, O Arjuna, freed from these three gates of hell, vimukta etai tribihi tamo dwaraihi, a man pursues what is good for himself and thus attains the supreme goal. Naraha acharatihi shreyaha atmanaha tataha yati param gatim. So he attains the highest goal, freedom from samsara. So thus Bhagavan basically condensed the Asura Gunas. So far we had seen so many Asura Gunas in the beginning. Asura qualities, Asura mindset, their words, how they feel about others, how they feel about Bhagavan, how they feel about the world, all those things. But basically he condensed all those characters, all those qualities into just 3, which is Kama, Krodha, Lobha. And he says those will take us to hell. But if we leave those 3 qualities, we will, by the benefit of that is basically we will be on the path to moksha. The benefit of leaving those 3 gunas is we will be on the path to moksha. So this is the purport of this sloka. Now sloka number 23. यह शास्त्र विधि मुत्सृज्य वर्तते कामकारतः न स सिद्धिमवाप्नोति न सुखं न परां गतिम्. यह शास्त्र विधि मुत्सृज्य वर्तते कामकारतः न स सिद्धिमवाप्नोति न सुखं न परां गतिम्. So Bhagavan basically says, suppose if somebody does not give up these 3, if they do not follow the advice of Bhagavan given in sloka number 21, what happens to him? Yah shastra vidhi mutsrajya. Basically we'll have to say Yah shastra vidhim utsrajya. That is how we'll have to split it. Shastra vidhim utsrajya. Yah means who. Utsrajya means have given up. What has he given up? Shastra vidhim, scriptural injunctions, whatever has been taught in the Shastras. He who has given up scriptural injunctions, meaning who is not following the Shastras, one who does not lead a life according to Shastras, what happens to him? Yah shastra vidhim utsrajya. The question is, if I do not follow the life according to the Shastras, how do I lead my life? Answer is the way we are leading now, which is according to our Swabhaava. How will we behave? We will behave according to our Swabhaava. Every one of us, we have our Swabhaava, and we behave according to that. We always say, if somebody does something, we say, why does he behave like that? Oh, it is his Swabhaava. But what is that Swabhaava? The Swabhaava is basically, each one's Swabhaava is different. In a particular family, 2 brothers, 2 sisters may not have the same Swabhaava. Each one has come with their own Swabhaava. And how does the Swabhaava, how does it actually get dictated? It gets dictated by the desires. So it gets dictated by desires. Swabhavam is basically what I like, I do. So it gets dictated by desires. So therefore Bhagavan confirms that. So having given up scriptural injunctions, Bhagavan says, Vartate kamakaratah. Vartate means lives. He lives. How does he live? Kamakaratah. According to the impulse of desire. So according to the impulse of desire. So whoever has given up scriptural injunction lives according to the impulse of desires. So now Kamakarataha. What Bhagavan said in Sloka number 21, he said there are 3 qualities that will take you to hell. Which are the one? Kama, Krodha, Lobham. Now Bhagavan basically has condensed, initially lot of this were condensed into 3. Now he is condensing it into only one. He says Kama Karataha. Basically he has removed Krodha and Lobha, and he says he has identified only a single root cause for all problems, and that is Kama. Kama is, as I said, selfish, binding desires. We'll have to, as I said, desires will not be able to overcome them immediately. Even selfish desires will not be able to overcome them immediately. So the first and foremost, how do we have to recognize this Kamaha as selfish, binding desires. So from here, basically what we have to say, either we can live the life according to Shastras, or we live according to our desire. So our actions can either come because it is given in Shastras. So certain things I do because it is given in Shastras. We get up, I do Sandhyandana, I do prayer, I do certain things because it is given by Shastras. Or I do certain things because I wake up, I surf my phone, I watch internet, or I actually watch a movie. It is all driven by desires. So either it is driven by Shastras or it is driven by desires. And the actions can be either dharmic or adharmic. And what happens if I let my life be driven by only my desires? What happens there? And not according to Shastras. Bhagavan says, he says there are 3 losses. He gives 3 losses here. Saha, what happens? Siddhim navapnoti, na sukam avapnoti, na param gatim avapnoti. Those are the 3 losses. Siddhim na avapnoti. Siddhim means, here Siddhim means Chitta Shuddhi. Chitta Shuddhi, purity of mind. So na avapnoti means will not attain. So this person will not attain mental purity. So we know what is mental purity. Mental purity is the qualification that is needed for us to proceed to Jnana Yoga. So that is one of the basic qualifications for us to get into moksha. So by following our desires, we will not be able to attain mental purity. But somebody might say, so what if I am not able to attain mental purity? I follow my desires because I want to be happy. Because if I do actions according to my desire, at least I will be happy. So Bhagavan says the next word, na sukham. He says neither happiness. You will not get mental purity, it's okay, but you will not get even happiness. There won't be even laukika sukham. There won't be even manusha sukham. Shastras give sukham also, they define or divide that into human happiness and animal happiness. Certain sukham or certain happiness are possible only for humans. It is not possible for animals. For example, suppose I get a good book, I read the book, I get happy. This is manusha sukham. Manusha sukham. This, suppose the same book is with a donkey, it too will get a pleasure. It's not that it won't get a pleasure, it will get a pleasure by eating that book or eating those pages. But it is not at the same level of happiness as humans. Manusha sukham is far more superior than animal sukham. Some people, even if they have the book, a very valuable book, they may not be able to read it, they may not be able to enjoy it, they may not be able to get the sukham out of it. What they do, they sell the book for a particular money and enjoy that, whatever that money can get, which will be of a much inferior quality. Anyway, so neither happiness. So just by following desire, I am not going to get happiness also. Then finally he says, na param gatim. There is no way this person is going to get moksha. If we are living our life according to our desires and not according to Shastras, we will not be eligible for moksha. We will not get moksha. Na param gatim, nor supreme goal. We think if we live according to our desires, it is my life, my rules. So a lot of people say, my life, my rules. I like it, so I do it. I am happy. You might be happy. It's not that you are not, but it is animalistic happiness. But if we live the life according to dharma, we get human happiness. And if we are living the life according to shastric injunctions, slowly we become human, and from there we become divine. If we live life according to dharma, do the sadhanas, study them, live by it, we will get moksha, param gatim, supreme goal. So thus, he who has given up scriptural injunctions, lives according to the impulse of desires, he attains neither purity, chitta shuddhi, nor happiness, nor does he attain the supreme goal. So this is the sloka number 23. So finally, Bhagavan concludes this in the 24th sloka. We'll quickly try to finish this. Tasmat shastram pramanam te karya karya vyavastitau jnatva shastra vidhanoktam karma kartum hirharhasi tasmat shastram pramanam te karya karya vyavastitau jnatva shastra vidhanoktam karma kartum hirharhasi. So Bhagavan basically concludes with an advice to Arjuna. He says, Bhagavan, because here what happens is, so far Bhagavan brings up an important point, a point that could actually create doubt in us. The doubt will be on Shraddha. Why should I follow Shastras? There could be a doubt. And that doubt is basically the Shraddha on Shastras. And this basically, this is chapter 16. So this will be the seed for the next chapter. Chapter 17 talks about all Shraddha only. Shraddha Traya Vibhago Yoga. But anyway, we will not be proceeding to Slokas, chapter 17 chapter next. But anyway, this sloka, he says, Bhagavan says, Tasmat. Therefore, he says, Bhagavan, Tasmat means whatever I have said in this chapter so far. Bhagavan says, Shastram Pramanam. This is a very, very important sloka. This is a very important sloka for all people who question Shastras. Bhagavan himself says here is Shastram Pramanam. Scriptures are the source of knowledge. They are the source of knowledge. For who? They. They means you. He is addressing Arjuna, but he is also addressing us. The word Pramanam is an important word. Pramanam means instrument of knowledge. We would have discussed in Introduction to Vedanta also, there are various Pramanas. Pratyaksha Pramana is there, Upamana, Anumana, Arthapatti. There are different types of Pramana. If we take Pratyaksha Pramana also, within Pratyaksham we have Pratyaksha means whatever I perceive. So what I perceive, I use my ears, I use my skin, I use my tongue, I use my nose. Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, I gather all these things. So this is my pramanam, instrument of knowledge. My sense organs are my instrument of knowledge. Bhagavan says, Shastram pramanam. Shastram pramanam. So these are instruments for knowledge for whatever I can perceive, whether the color, sound, what I touch, how I feel, what I smell, and all those things. But what is the Shastram pramanam for? Bhagavan says, Karya Akarya Vyavastitau. In determining the do's and don'ts, Karyam Akaryam. The Shastras are the source of knowledge for us to determine what to do and what not to do. So we will have to live the life guided by Shastras. And what should not be our desire? What should not be our guide? The guide cannot be our desires. Shastra should be the guide to decide what action to do, what action not to do. Not the eyes, not the ears, not the tongue, not the skin. Definitely not the mind. When it comes to, because my mind says I do. There is a Tamil song also. Kan pona pokile kaal pogalama, kan pona kaal pona pokile manam pogalama, manam pona pokile manidan pogalama. So definitely not the mind. So what do we have? Do we have a choice? Yes, we have a choice. We have a choice whether we can go by our desire. But if we go by a desire, Bhagavan has already warned us. What will happen? Na siddhim avapnoti, na sukham avapnoti, na param gatim avapnoti. Neither will get purity of mind, nor will get happiness, nor will get moksha. But then the other choice is Shastra. Shastras alone is pramana. And what happens if we go there? Na sukham, na siddhim, na param gatim, but also we will also get narakam if we go through that. So he says here he says tasmat shastram pramanante karya akarya vyavastitau, in determining the do's and don'ts. Next line he says Nyatva Shastra Vidhanoktam. Nyatva means having known. Shastra Vidhanoktam. Shastra Vidhanoktam means, Shastra means scripture. Vidhanoktam means injunctions. So once we know what Shastram injunctions, what should we do? Injunctions means whatever Shastram proclaims, whatever Shastrams announce, whatever Shastrams decrease, whatever Shastram states. If we do that, what should we do? Karma kartum arhasi. Iha arhasi. Karma kartum iha arhasi. Karma arhasi means you desire or you should. Arhasi means you should. What we should? Karma kartum. Do your duty. You should do your duty. Where should you do your duty? Not in the next life. Not when I go to hell. Not when I go to heaven. Iha, here. Iha kartum arhasi. Iha karma kartum arhasi. So having known the teachings of scriptural instructions, we should do our duty here. So Bhagavan says, do not do according to what the mind says. Act according to what the Shastra says. The leading guide for our life should be the Shastras, not our likes and dislikes, not what other people's lives are. Definitely we should not compare with others. There will be always a lot of people who are having a different kind of life. Seemingly they may enjoy life. Because we always look at others and say how successful they are, how happy they are. Maybe I should also live like them. Maybe that will make me happy. Bhagavan makes it clear. He says, Shastras, few points we can take. Number one, Shastras are our well-wishers. They have our highest interest in its mind. When Shastras, whatever they say, Veda Pramanam, Vedas can never lie. We have to have that Shraddha. So Shastram Pramana. Shastra is my well-wisher. That's one. Shastra is my well-wisher. Shastra is my Pramana. Second one, which means they will not lie. My I walk on the road using my eye as my instrument of knowledge. If I see something, if I see a pit, if my eye sees a pit, I walk past it. I go around it. Can I say I will not trust my eyes and walk straight? No, because I believe that my eyes will not lie. Because it is my pramana. In the same way, Shastras are my pramana. It will not lie. I should have that Shraddha. Why we have this problem? Why we do not believe Shastras? Not because we have been able to prove that Shastras are wrong, but mostly because Shastras seem to advise that things or actions which are diagonally opposite to my likes. I do not want to wake up early, but Shastras ask me to wake up early. I do not want to sit and do puja. I do not want to sit and do Sandhya Vandana. Shastras ask me to do it. So not that I have been able to prove that it is wrong or it is bad, but because it is against my wishes, against my desires. So I need to have Shraddha on Shastras. And suppose I have a well-wisher who is knowledgeable, who is experienced. Like for example, let's take sports. There is a coach, right? These days coaches are very common. We have coaches for even corporate world. So there is a sports coach. Sports coach comes up and says, wake up early, do this exercise, run 15 kilometers, carry weights, do push-ups, don't eat oily food. All those things he says. These are all against our desires. But as that sports person, does he not trust the coach? He trusts the coach. He says, okay, he's asking me things that I do not like, but he is knowledgeable, he is my well-wisher, so this will do good for me in the long run. But suppose if we don't trust the coach, will it work? It won't work. Will we be able to achieve? No. The same way, Shastras act as a pramana, or Shastras as a pramana will work only if we have Shraddha. If we have complete trust on it. If we do not trust it and we say, I am an agnostic, then it will not give us the desired result. Wherever there is a pramana, Shraddha is important. As I said, the example, when crossing the road, there is a pramana, my eyes, Shraddha is important. I trust my eyes. So it is important. So for the Shastram to work, we will have to have complete Shraddha in that. So thus, in this chapter, basically Bhagavan gave the Daivi Sampat, then gave the Asuri Sampat, then explained the Asuri Sampat in detail. Then he let us know what they lose by having these gunas. Then finally he said, Shastras, go by Shastras. That alone should be your guide. Okay, we'll close 16th chapter with this. Om Tat Sat Iti Shri Bhagavad Gita Su Upanishadsu Brahma Vidyayam Yoga Shastre Shri Krishna Arjuna Samvade Daivasura Sampat Bhaga Yoga Nama Shodashodhyayah. So we have completed 16th chapter. From next class, maybe next class I will try to give a summary of 16th chapter in one class, and then after that we will move on to chapter 1. Any questions or comments? If not, again we will see it in the next class. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Guru.